Imagine if you spent 8 hours a day for 1,095 days working on cold emailing. So how good do you think you would be if you have the chance to spend that much time? In this video, I'm going to be teaching you things that took me well over 10,000 hours of me in the trenches of cold emails, working on split testing, subject lines, opening lines, playing around with AI prompts, playing around with deliverability setups, you name it. And that kind of work allowed me to get results like 30 booked calls from cold emails within a month for one of our clients, or increasing our own MRR by 30K in just 1 month, or one of my favorite recent wins, which is adding $1.2 million in one of our clients' pipeline from one cold email that we've sent. So today I'm going to show you the 7 most valuable tips I've learned in the last 5 years in the cold email space that not a lot of people are willing to show you. How to craft irresistible offers in your cold emails, how to personalize the first line in the email you've sent, and the best call to action that I've used in the emails that I've been sending for the last 5 years. I've seen business owners of huge companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, they go through experiences like, oh, cold email didn't work for me, or cold email doesn't work for my specific niche, or my favorite one is cold email is dead. But it hasn't been dead for me in the last 5 years, and it's definitely not dead today. So some of the most common mistakes I see that makes people go down that path of cold email is dead. The first one is little to no effort put towards building a targeted lead list. The second one is they follow through the same pattern and then they write extremely generic copy that doesn't sound like it was meant for one specific person to get. And then the third one is people don't do any testing. If you were to compare cold email with running ads, for example, you talk to the best Facebook, Google, YouTube ads guy out there, they tell you that they obsessed over split testing their ads. The same logic should be applied with your cold email campaigns. The first line, you need to play around with it. The subject line, you need to split test. The offer, the call to action. There's so many elements that go in the cold email. You cannot afford to be lazy with it. The email that you write today might have to be different in a month or 2 or next year, whatever the case is. And then the fourth one is personal anecdotes. Sometimes it might not even be that they tried it. If a friend of theirs tried it and didn't work, then all of a sudden that is the truth. But I'll tell you something that happened with me. Obviously, I was not always an expert. I had to start from somewhere. And in my early days, I didn't know how to properly set up a good infrastructure to send out emails. I didn't know what DNS records were. I didn't know what warming up inboxes and domains is. So when I launched my first email campaign, it obviously didn't work. I had little to no replies. But then when I educated myself, when I learned more about the process and the setup, I realized like, oh, I'm actually at fault here. So when I set up my DNS records properly, I started getting replies. People tell me to leave them alone. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to work on my lead list and copy. So it's a step-by-step process. Now let's talk about the payoff. Getting good at cold emails is really the same as getting good at any other skill. Now let's say when you were a kid, I really hope if you're watching this, you know how to ride a bike. Then you remember when you first jumped on the bike and it was maybe your dad, mom, grandpa, whatever the case is teaching you how to ride a bike, and then you fall. But you don't stop there, right? Because if you stop there, you never get to feel the excitement of the air blowing through your face and your hair when you're riding through a bicycle, hopefully with your friends as well, laughing, going around the rail, and so on. Now that being said, there isn't really a right way to do things. The way your dad taught you how to ride a bike isn't the same way my dad taught me how to ride a bike. And the same goes with cold email. So if you think that there's only one way, a perfect way to do things, you're going to overthink this process and you're either never going to get started, or when you do start, it's now going to be a pleasant experience. Develop your own perspective and gather as much information as you can from different sources. And of course, you have to trust the process and yourself, and don't stop until you figure this out. In my experience from talking to a lot of founders, one of the main problems that will sink a ship is when a company thinks that, okay, just because one thing worked, we are going to stick to that. And especially this cannot be more relevant in today's world. You cannot afford to have that kind of mindset. So for example, back in the day, if you were selling to newspaper companies and you had a really good offer, maybe you were crushing it, right? You're making a lot of money, you're hiring people, you're signing clients and so on. But if you're not keeping an eye out on the industry, then you would have missed that newspapers are on their way out. When was the last time you saw someone read a newspaper? So if your business was in that niche, in that industry, and you weren't aware that that industry is evolving and is going from point A to point B, and you didn't take the right steps to adjust, then your business would have sunk. The next bit of advice is probably the most important one. Test as much as you can. A lot of companies I know will give up on this acquisition channel. So for example, if someone replies to your cold email and they tell you we're not interested, or someone internally on your team tells you like this process just does not work, really ask yourself, did we give it enough chance? Did we test different variations, or are we waving the white flag way too soon? And the last thing you want to do is for like months to go by and you look back at a certain process, or in this case like the acquisition channel of cold email, and say, oh man, like I wish I tried that out, let's restart again. And now you lost like months of opportunity cost when you could have just stayed focused, split test as much as you can to really figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I'm currently using Instantly here. This is where you can edit your sequences. And for this example, I'm reaching out to Michael, who I saw follows Clay on LinkedIn. So here's the thought strategy behind this. Every email you write, there's really like a couple elements that you want to focus on, which is subject line, and then the first line, and then the body, and then the call to action. Now, the reason why you want to focus, in my opinion, the most on these two is because that's what's going to determine if someone's even going to open your email in the first place. What's the point of optimizing your offer if no one's going to open your email? Your email should capture their attention and evoke enough curiosity for them to be like, oh, what is this? Like, I want to see. Now for subject line, there's a lot of different strategies you can do. My favorite one, I think it's called internal cameo. Essentially, it sounds like someone internally on their team could have sent it. I like that a lot because again, it feels very natural. Make sure everything flows and connects together. The subject line should be a 2 to 3 word preview of what's going to happen in the email. And then the first line should be a preview of what they're going to get for the rest of the email. So in this case, because of the time, I'm currently recording this video on October. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to put Q4 forecasting. And then the first line is based on observation. That is typically my way to go with these emails, is I want to be able to prove to them that I did research on them and I observed something, which is why I'm reaching out. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, Michael, saw that you follow Clay on LinkedIn. Has sales rep 1 gotten the chance to leverage Clay to feel what it's like to automate their manual outbound work? Now, there's like 2 lessons here happening. One is, this is a kind of like a poke the bear question. I know this because I work a lot with companies that want to implement Clay, and I know that a problem that they have is they can't get their team to play with the tool because the tool can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. And here I'm intentionally saying has sales rep 1 because I'm alluding to you that this would only work if the lead list I built was so targeted that I'm only reaching out to people that actually have salespeople. Obviously, some companies don't have salespeople, right? It could be a very young company, or they rely on just strictly marketing or founder-led sales. But for this one, it's a very specific problem I'm going after. I actually like to elevator pitch / social proof myself. I want you to know why you should trust me, who I am, and what I've been able to do for someone similar to you. So I say here, we're on Clay's website listed as experts. That section is telling you I'm actually legit. I'm not just some random person reaching out to you. And if you're interested, you probably go on Clay's website and you can actually find me there. And then I say, and I have helped similar company 1 double their meetings booked while reducing their sales team's manual work by 40%. I have a video testimonial of this on my website. So if I need to follow up with them or we're on a call, I can be like, you can actually watch a video of the client talking about this. And then similar company 1 is again based on the targeted lead list that I built. I know that if I name drop this company, they're most likely going to relate to it. And then last but not least, the call to action. Can I send you a video to show you how we did it? You're always going to do a better job at explaining things, but we're going to take this even a step further. I am going to copy this entire email and I'm going to go to a GPT agent that we trained. And I love to always make sure that the copy I'm writing is communicating whatever thing I want to communicate in the least amount of words possible. So I'm going to paste my email here, and that's what this GPT agent is trained to do. The same thing I said. Saw that you follow Clay on LinkedIn. Notice you follow Clay on LinkedIn. Feels a little bit quicker. And then here, in this case, instead of me saying, has sales rep 1 gotten the chance to leverage Clay to feel what it's like to automate their manual outbound work, actually feels very lengthy. GPT says, has sales rep 1 tried using Clay yet to automate their outbound work? The devil's in the detail, because people don't read emails, by the way. FYI, people just skim through emails. I am going to take this and I'm going to come back to Instantly, and I'm going to delete this section and do here. I like this a lot more. And then you can also use liquid spin tags. Although if you're using AI to customize your emails, that should be fine, because the whole point of liquid spin tags is to make every email look more unique. But if you're using these variables with AI, then you should be fine. If you want to go above and beyond, you can use both. So liquid spin tags plus AI generated sentences. Just make sure that whatever liquid spin tags you're using, the options they're using sound natural. So in this case here, a random, can I send you a quick video? Should I send over a video? Want me to share a video? I probably wouldn't want to say should I. That feels a bit too aggressive. Want me to share a video video to show you how we did it, I kind of like that. So I would take out the midsection and then only keep the other two. So if I were to delete this, I would take this out. So that's what a preview would look like. It would not pick up on the word random. That's how you write liquid syntax in instantly. And again, our agent is trained on doing that. If you want access to the agent, I'm going to link it in the description down below, by the way. And then the other thing, you always want to split test, right? So in here it says Q4 forecasting. I would love to actually have another version where it has the name of the sales rep in there. That might improve open rates. I don't know. Only the data will tell me. So that's like one of the benefits of split testing and one of the benefits of using instantly, which by the way, if you want to use instantly, I'm also going to link down below a link for you to sign up so you can play around with the tool. And last tip I want to give you is the way I like to follow up, and I've never shared this publicly, is that I'm a very big fan of making my copywriting sound very conversational. So I like to say something like this. Oh, Xavier, forgot to mention. That's something I've said a lot of times when I'm talking to friends or in conversation. I'll be like, I'll throw in a lead list of 2,500 verified emails of founders of fintechs, if that's the ICP. And the way to figure out the ICP is you want to use AI so you can do this at scale. And then again, the cool thing about this is this will be different for every single email you send out because every lead will probably have a slightly different ICP depending on how you build the lead list. But I do like to send 2 touch points, 3 max. Anything more than that feels spammy. And the data shows that we get the most replies from email 1, and then the second one that we get the most replies from is actually email 3. So that's why I spend a lot of time figuring out what's that first line, subject line, body text, and you will see a huge improvement in your conversions for your cold emails. Another thing I've noticed is that people will test just for the sake of testing without really a reason. One common thing I hear is, oh, I'm just testing a bunch of stuff. What does that mean? What is a bunch? How much is that? What is stuff? So your goal should be to learn from every test. You can't just say, I'm testing for the sake of testing. Go in there knowing that, oh, I'm testing the subject lines. So after I run this campaign, I'm going to know which subject line is going to have a better performance because people are opening and replying to me and so on. Have a test for just offers, for example. Like this one, I'm going to offer 10 videos for free. This one, I'm going to offer 5. Have another one where the call to action is different. This one, I'm going to say, can I send you a video to show you how I did it? And then this one will say, does this seem interesting? Which by the way, this one I just mentioned, does this seem interesting to you? You would be surprised how often this works if everything you mentioned before the email is really good. All the things that influence testing could be rooted in industry, platform interest, and product market fit. So the payoff with this section is I really want you to understand that you need to drive your own strategy. You need to be able to understand this at such a good baseline level that you know what needs to be split tested and what doesn't. The last thing I wanted to touch on is how valuable it is to have people around you that are thinking about the same things that you're thinking about. A really popular story about this is Mr. Beast, actually. Mr. Beast has mentioned this a couple of times where he credits his success a lot due to the fact that when he was starting out, he had people around him that were trying the same thing that he was trying. And more often than not, they would jump on calls together to discuss the things that worked and things that didn't work. And he feels as if he was able to jumpstart his career by many years because there's no way he had more than 24 hours in a day. But when he split that 24 hours with people around him that had the same interest, his learnings just exponentially grew. And now he's at where he's at. Keep in mind, when you first start, you're probably better off doing this alone because you need to go from 0 to 1. But when you want to scale from 1 to N and go from someone who kind of understands how to do this to expert level, you need to surround yourself with those kind of people. I would not be making this video right now and talking to you, explaining these concepts to you, if I didn't jump on God knows how many calls and learn from so many amazing individuals. Some of my favorite places to find people online is Reddit. Reddit is a great place, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook groups. And that's just about everything I can sum up for you in this video after spending over 10,000 hours in this cold email space. But I realize a lot of stuff I talked about in this video is more general advice. So click here if you want to see a step-by-step guide on how to implement a cold email strategy that is currently generating over 20 calls per 1,000 emails sent.